Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and Sean Gordon Murphy is called it quits on Twitter. Just yesterday, he sent out a tweet that said, "After talking with my wife, my assistant, and my bat team, I've decided to delete my Twitter account after the Plot Holes campaign ends later tonight." And here with me to talk about this is Aaron Sparrow. This feels like a moment of clarity.
It really does, Wes. I applaud his decision. I think it's the right. I think it's the right call.
Yeah, there's Twitter is an interesting thing. There's lots of promotional opportunities. You can go and you can talk to customers, maybe reach out and find new customers. But with all that comes this enormous amount of baggage. And it's almost like you know when you watch like a prison movie, and when the new guy goes in, the fish goes in, and he realizes after a day he has to gang up. He's to join a gang that he doesn't really believe in what they believe in just for the protection. It feels like that's what you have to do on Twitter. You have to join one extremist side on Twitter just so you don't get bombed by both of them.
Oh yeah, your Twitter is constantly sailing between a never-ending. What is it? The in Greek mythology from the Odyssey, the Cryptus and the blanking on the other the Scylla and the Cryptus. You've got to like just navigate right between those, and there's no real way to avoid either one. And that's definitely the way that Twitter, and especially comics Twitter, seems to be.
Yeah, so I can imagine someone of Sean Gordon Murphy's profile. Obviously, he's exploded. You know, people knew who he was. He's got an amazing art style. Kind of has started developing his writing talent, and you know, Batman White Knight really just blew up. And in my opinion, if you're a viewer of the channel and you haven't checked it out yet, that's like borderline instant classic. It's one of the contemporary stories that's been told in the last 5 years that I think people will still be reading and talking about in 20 years. I think it's that good and that groundbreaking just with the visuals, along with the storytelling by Sean Gordon Murphy, that when you get a profile like that, you get this big spotlight on you and everyone's pressuring you. Oh, what's the mantra of the week? And you get all the pressure from the industry. Why haven't you said this? Why haven't you said our chant? Then you get the pressure from the crazies. Why aren't you supporting our issue? Why aren't you supporting our issue? Then you get the pressure from the other side. You're bending the knee, or haha, you bent the knee. You should have joined us. And it's like, there's no winning.
No, this is why I've never, I've always said on Twitter, I'm not a joiner. Don't pot me with your dirty little guilds. I don't care. I'm here. I'm an individual. I judge people on an individual basis. I don't like to paint people with a broad brush. So I don't join groups. I don't join groups because I don't want to be, put in the position where I have to comment when someone who claims the same group that I do says something stupid or goes and does something stupid. There's whole groups of people out there on comics Twitter that are dedicated to, harassing people or, sending people, or just like sending stupid memes where, there's like a whole bunch of guys photoshopping dicks in people's mouths. I don't want any part of that. And I don't want to have to answer for any of that. So I don't want to be, connected to, to any group that claims those guys or that those guys claim. So I'll just be me over here. And, Sean Gordon Murphy, I think, was trying to do the same thing. But it's such a huge spotlight. He's one of the few creators in the last several years that has really, like you said, managed to craft a classic, something that people are going to be reading for a long time. We used to get those quite regularly in comics, but in the current comic situation, most of the products that are put out are ultimately immediately forgettable. And so for him to come out and have a smash hit like that actually drove sales and was not part of regular continuity but still captured such a huge audience, it was just an amazing accomplishment. And so everybody was going to try to get him on their side because it's this strange like social currency. It's kind of like I liken it to this: if I'm a boss and I have a team of employees and I want to give myself a raise, there's two ways that I can do it. I can say, okay, well, I'm making $50,000 a year now. I want to make 75. So what I need to do is I need to cut these guys down by 25, and I can take that 25,000. Then I'll be making 75. But in order to do that, I have to cut them down. Instead of working hard and just earning $25,000 more to get where I want to be. And I feel like that's where a lot of the bottom feeders of comics, these people that you see who are just like ravenous lions just going back and forth, trying to see who they can devour, and just never satisfied when they do actually bring somebody down. They just immediately move on to the next target. I think that that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to elevate themselves, in this really narcissistic way. And the only way they can think of doing it is to destroy somebody who is their, financial or, storytelling better, someone who's higher up in the industry. If they can pull them down, then that somehow improves their station in life. And I think it's pathetic and sad.
Well, I think one of the issues is they don't kind of move along. There's always these weird, I think Doc calls it the comic book fantasy draft, where the sides are on and they're always trying to draft you. Once, if you haven't declared, they're always trying to draft you to their side and they're saying, look, he said this. This obviously means he agrees with us. And then the other side said, no, he said this. He obviously agrees with us. And then you're kind of stuck there in the middle. And then if you don't declare a side, then they both start trashing you and say, like, look, see, he said that. He supports them. We don't like him. Don't buy his book. And the other side's doing the same thing. And they don't leave you alone. And then if they get really mad at you because you're really successful and they can't bring you down that way, they'll start parsing through your tweets for the last 5 years, just looking for anything that can be taken out of context. They'll start talking to people. Hey, did you ever have an issue with so-and-so? We just saw what happened where Magdalene Visaggio, who Sean Gordon Murphy had publicly come out and supported, even though that person had done some very negative things, in my opinion, some kind of gross things. Obviously, we're not going to get into details. That's not what this is about. But he came out publicly, had some pictures taken with her, talked about how she was a cool person, and supported her. And she just turned on him like a dime, just for a little bit of internet clout, so she could jump on the bandwagon when we're still kind of in the middle of it with all these allegations that are coming out. And it's just a constant contest to see who can bring somebody else that's successful down further, and they will never let it go. And I think that's a big reason that Sean is making the same choice and walking away from Twitter.
I think these people are basically engaging in the same kind of behavior that you see where there's this stand-up comic named Anthony Jeselnik, and he does this bit about thoughts and prayers. And it's kind of the same philosophy. Like what he says about thoughts and prayers is, everybody rushes to their social media and they say, my thoughts and prayers are with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, you know what that's worth? That's worth absolutely nothing, because you haven't really given any of your time, any of, any money, any kind of effort to actually help. All you've done is said, don't forget about me today. And I feel like that's exactly what a lot of these, especially just these baseless accusations. Obviously, there's a lot of bad behavior in the industry, and some people have been exposed for it. Like Cameron Stewart was up to some really gross behavior that seems to have come out. And I would say that, by the fact that he just shut everything down and didn't try to defend himself, that maybe there's a lot of truth to it. I don't know. Until we actually hear more, I don't really know what to say about it, except for the fact that it looks like he's guilty. So yeah, there's a lot of bad behavior that needs to be exposed, but there's also a lot of just baseless hatred of individual people and, people looking to settle scores and being petty. And it's absolutely ridiculous. It just gets to a point where the entire industry looks gross, and you actually wonder what would be so bad about if this whole thing burned to the ground. And I hate thinking that way because comics has been such an amazing part of my life, and I obviously enjoy the medium. Even like just now, I just bought a bunch of hardcovers of old comics this week. So I can go back and I can relive them without having to go through my back issues. It's just such an important part of my life. But when they can even get me to a point where I'm going oh man, all these people are disgusting. What what can you really say?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you think about all these things that we're witnessing right now, and then Sean Gordon Murphy hasn't, as far as we can tell, hasn't really done anything, but he obviously gets dragged into it. And that's one of the problems with social media and the hysteria culture, the mob culture that's kind of associated with it. It's all guilty until proven innocent. So people can take anything. They can fake a tweet, put the most outlandish, insane thing ever on it. People assume that it's real without verifying it. They will forward it out, retweet it, and it'll get reach to millions of people. And 3 days later, obviously, when they do the retraction tweet, it gets retweeted by like 20 people, and nobody realizes that it was all bullshit to begin with. And then that stain just sticks with you. And just the way that people are able to trash your reputation and do permanent harm to you with almost no repercussions. Just Twitter and social media was a bad idea, man. We weren't meant to interact not face to face, not just publicly.
No, I don't think so. And it also, I don't think that your every thought that comes into your head was meant to be sent out on the internet. There's a lot of things that arrive in your head half formed. And, a couple days later, if you think about it, or even like weeks or months later, your position will be different. So I think this permanent record of every half-baked idea or thought that we've ever had put out on the internet is really detrimental. You've seen people lose their jobs over jokes. You've seen people lose their jobs over something from 10 years ago when they certainly could have evolved in their thinking and have a totally different opinion now. But, people are eager to destroy because they get that little dopamine hit. It makes them feel good. There's a comedian, I can't remember who it was, but he has a bit about saying that he doesn't let his daughters on the internet. He says, because you say something horrible to somebody's face and you kind of see the pain that crosses over their face, and if you have any kind of empathy at all, you say to yourself, "Oh God, that didn't feel good. I don't want to do that. I don't want to cause pain." But on the internet, it feels great because you don't see their reaction. You just send that tweet, and then a couple of other people retweet it, and then some other people that have a vendetta against that person for whatever reason, maybe just because they're jealous or because they worked together at one point and they had a falling out, they'll come and jump on the bandwagon, and it just becomes a disgusting mob with pitchforks and torches, all going to burn down the windmill that the Frankenstein monster has retreated to.
Yeah, and even just thinking about all the things that kind of come with social media, it's just been an absolute disaster, in my opinion. Just you can't put anything out there, and there's no nuance really in the conversation. So somebody might have a really playful personality. I know that you do because we communicate, here on the channel, and we obviously talk in back channels. We even have like a little private group where we talk, and you have a playful personality, so you could be out there on Twitter. Interacting with people, just joking around and doing funny haha type stuff. But if someone can't interpret that you're just kind of shooting the breeze, they can take things way too seriously, way too far, or things kind of can come up wrong, or even things that would have been fine, like you said. Today in 10 years they might be completely offensive, and people will come back, and then you will get trial by mob 10 years after the fact for something that in that moment in time would have been a perfectly fine thing to stay within the culture and society at that moment.
Well, I remember when the James Gunn's tweets came out, and he had already apologized for them previously, but it didn't matter. He grew up a trauma kid. He made some off-color jokes about pedophilia. But if you go back and you look at the time that he made those jokes, everybody was kind of making those jokes because it was when To Catch a Predator was on the air.
Like Olympics, to see who could say the most insane thing.
Yeah, and you had like Chris Hansen on the air with To Catch a Predator, and so people were always doing the joke where it was like, oh, why don't you come in and have a seat? Like everybody was kind of like riffing off of that, and I think part of it is because it's just such a horrible thing that people feel compelled to be like, well, if I can just make like a tasteless joke out of this, we can all kind of laugh and like relieve the tension of how disgusting this is. Which I think is the whole point of comedy to begin with, is to, say, look at this horrible thing. Let's all laugh at it, and let's all mock it and kind of like defuse its power. But that's not allowed anymore. And it's just made entertainment so bland and so, just such a minefield that I don't know what kind of TV shows, I don't know what kind of, television, movies that we're going to get in the next 10 years. Because it's going to take a while for all of this damage to be undone and all of this fear to go away. And the thing is, it doesn't really have to be that way. All it takes is people saying, if somebody comes and makes a false accusation towards you, or, takes something out of context and tries to make you apologize, you just tell them, hey, why don't you go to hell? I'm not going to apologize for shit. I said what I said. It was a joke. If you don't like it, move on. I'm not going to apologize to you. I don't care if you're offended. That's your business, not mine.
It's definitely the political correct culture that we're kind of ensconced in. It's probably one of the most infuriating mind-numbing things that I've experienced in my lifetime. I'm not the world's oldest gentleman, but I'm in my early 40s, and just to see the way that it's gone, because you could kind of see it kind of creeping into society, and now it's not creeped anymore. It's full on in everyone's. It's in our vocabulary. It's in how we can interact. It's in what entertainment we can see. It's in what entertainment we're allowed to see that was produced before, whether it needs a disclaimer, things like that. And like I'm not built for politically correct culture. I don't want that stuff. I want to see things that offend me. And if it's too offensive, I'll walk away. I am an adult and I can make choices, but everybody wants to make choices for you nowadays, and I find it very frustrating. But let's bring it back over to Sean Gordon Murphy and kind of where he's at in his career, and why I couldn't agree more with his decision. We know, and he talks about it in that series of tweets where he basically says he's signing off of Twitter, that we've heard about the Murphyverse, the Batman White Knight universe that's going to be like its own thing over at DC Comics. Basically, right now he's written White Knight. He's written Curse of the White Knight. There's also a Victor Von Fries one-shot. He wrote all those. Obviously, he did not illustrate the Victor Von Fries one-shot. That was illustrated by another artist whose name escapes me right now. I do apologize. But he announced, there are going to be new titles with new writers. I believe his wife is going to be one of those writers. And he named the artist. I think it's Matteo Scalerio, but I might have that one wrong. But it's expanding. There's going to be more titles in there. He's going to have his own team. He's essentially going to be the team lead. He's the manager. And in order to protect his team, like he cannot be out on social media exposing himself out there to ridicule and people trying to destroy him and what he's built over at DC Comics.
No, I agree. It's definitely the right move. I worry, though, he's doing it to protect his team. It is Matteo Scalera on the book with his wife, by the way. That was what was announced. And Matteo is an extremely talented artist. I worked at Boom when he was doing work for that company, and always liked the work that he turned in. But my worry is that in the absence of being able to target Sean on social media, that they might go after people he's working with. Like you saw that with he was tweeted by, where they went after Blake Northcott and were like, well, are you going to disavow Blake Northcott because you didn't do, Doug TenNapel's cover for his Bigfoot Bill book, because, shitty people are shitty people. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact quote, but, it was basically one of those attacks. And it's one of those things that really upset me because as far as I can tell, Blake Northcott is guilty of good customer service. And that's what Sean Gordon Murphy is guilty of. The fact that they refuse to denounce the people that these Twitter weirdos demand that they denounce, because they're like, I'm not going to denounce customers. I'm going to treat people as individuals. I think that's the way that you're supposed to be. So I fully applaud it. And if I can just vent my frustration here for a moment, when you look at what Sean Gordon Murphy has done in his career and what he has earned, the idea that some nobody on Twitter can come at him and do damage to him when they have accomplished none of what he's accomplished. They have contributed nothing near what he has contributed to the industry. And as far as we can tell, he's a really nice guy, and there's nothing substantive about what they're coming at him with, aside from the fact that you don't hate who we want you to hate. It is extremely frustrating to me. You haven't earned what that man has earned. Sit down and shut up. Maybe instead of being on Twitter all day, put your ass to work on your own properties, on your own projects, and see if you can get anywhere. Then maybe, when you have contributed nearly as much as Sean Gordon Murphy has to the industry, you can have a discussion with him. Until then, shut up. I'm so tired of it.
It's absolutely tiresome. And just in my own experience, and that was very well said. I have to look at Twitter. I've been looking at Twitter as a completely different way now for the last 8 to 10 months. I don't interact with it the same way. I look at it very much less often. I interact with negative comments much less often. I'm more apt to just ignore them completely, which means I actually interact with the positive comments even less often as well, because I don't want to show favoritism. So every once in a while, if there's something truly good in there, I'll respond to it. Normally, I will heart it. Even if I don't respond, but I try to just stay out of it because it is a minefield and you never know what's going to happen. And just with everything that's been going on with the unrest, I think I witnessed like 7 people retweeting and putting out videos of like 7 murders. That is weird. I have seen a couple of people die in my lifetime. I'm not a young man. I did go to Afghanistan and things like that, but I certainly never saw like 7 murders in a fucking week, man. Like, why do people think it's normal to send that shit out?
I have no idea. Like I've seen so many things on Twitter that I've just been completely mortified. I'm like, man, you could have given me a warning. I don't expect to see this. It's I don't know. I feel like it's really coarsened the culture. I feel like for people who talk about empathy all day long, these people on Twitter certainly don't seem to have any. They are not consistent in their own beliefs that they proclaim. They talk about how people need to be treated as human beings, and you need to have empathy for them and things like that. But they are the first people to pounce and just say absolutely horrible things to other people. It's almost as if they want to see if they can get you to kill yourself, and it's disgusting. And I'm so tired of it, and I'm so glad that for the most part I don't have to interact with these people. I've kind of cultivated my feed to be, I don't talk about anything that's really serious all that often. I'm mostly there to make jokes and to make sarcastic comments, and the people that follow me seem to know that and appreciate it. And anytime I get somebody who doesn't understand it, I'll explain it to them, and then they can make their decision as to whether or not they want to stick around and follow me. But they certainly don't have to. They can hit that unfollow button if they don't like what I have to say. And if I don't like what someone else has to say, I'll hit the unfollow button. I'm certainly not going to spend my day trying to destroy their career because they said something I don't like. If I did that, I would have no time for anything else in my life, because there's all kinds of people that say things that I don't like, and I just move on. And you know what? I'm friends with a lot of people that say things that I don't like. I follow a lot of people who say things that I don't like. I like other perspectives. I like to hear from other people, whether I agree with them or whether I disagree with them. I think that that's what keeps, your brain moving, and makes you realize that, maybe you don't know everything. And sometimes you might be exposed to new information that might get you to change your mind about something. I like that. But these people don't seem to like that. They seem to like their echo chamber. They don't like to be challenged. They certainly don't like debate, because for the most part, many of their arguments cannot stand up to scrutiny or to statistics or to facts. So instead, they just kind of cultivate this piranha tank. And I think that Sean Gordon Murphy deciding to get out of it is the best possible thing for him, for his family, for his mental well-being. I recently, just to kind of like draw a comparison, I recently culled my Facebook. I deleted every friend that I had on Facebook because it had sort of turned into a fan page, but I just deleted everybody. I deleted, people that I've known for years. And beforehand, I told them, I said, this is nothing personal. It's just, I don't want to log into Facebook anymore and read people's political opinions or their rants or see them fighting with other people that I know. I just don't want any of it. It does nothing for me. It's not edifying to my spirit. Now when I log into Facebook, all I see are like the collector groups that I'm a part of and people talking about a shared interest and a shared joy. And it is fantastic. It has been such a boon to my mental well-being. I have so much less anxiety. And eventually, I wonder if maybe Twitter is going to get to that point for me. So far, it hasn't, because I control my Twitter pretty well. I've got a good group of people interacting with me. Most people that are malicious tend to ignore me, and I think that it's because, number one, I'm small potatoes. Number two, I think they get the idea that I would not give a shit. Like I can't be pushed. I can't be intimidated. I'm not going to bend the knee. I'm going to basically tell you to go F yourself. If you come at me sideways, I don't care. So I think maybe that's, a big reason that my Twitter has kind of stayed, nice and calm and a fun place where I get to interact with people that are there to have fun. But, I could certainly see that turning. And I know that that's not the experience for a lot of people on Twitter. So, yeah, it's a good decision for him.
Absolutely. I applaud Sean Gordon Murphy's decision. I think it was very smart. He does still have, I guess his assistant still has a Sean Gordon Murphy art page where he'll make announcements and you can know what art he's selling and things like that. There is no personal connection anymore. I think it's very smart. It's good for him, good for his family, good for his team, good for his spiritual well-being, good for his emotional well-being. It's good leadership too. I like to see good leadership in the industry. And I think Sean Gordon Murphy is being a leader right now through his actions and saying, it's time to turn this shit off because it's not worth our time. And it's certainly given me something to think about. Like I said, I interact with my Twitter and I use it much differently now. And is it really worth it? That's a question I'm going to have to ask myself and come up with a decent answer with, over the next few months or so. But I think Sean Gordon Murphy has probably made the right choice. It is somebody I should probably follow their lead on this case, because I think he's being very sane and using his head right here.
It's a shame to not be able to, one of the things that seemed nice about Twitter when it started was having that personal connection with people whose work you admired. But as the behavior of most of the industry has gotten more and more worse, just as broken as they seem to have been since the 2016 election, and how that's really made some creators just go off the deep end and, curse people that are part of their fan base. And, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's helping their mental health being on Twitter, obviously. I don't think it's helping the industry, because obviously it's losing fans left and right. And I know it is, because anytime some pro that's on a high profile book tweets, loses their temper and tweets out a bunch of nonsense, or attacks somebody else, or attacks another creator, or attacks a group of fans, I have people call the shops or send emails to the shop and say, take this creator stuff off my pull list. I don't want to support this guy anymore, or I don't want to support this girl anymore. And that, who does that hurt? That hurts the shops, because I still got 3 months worth of books coming that I ordered for those pull customers. And now I got to eat those because, some creator decided that, well, it's, I'm an artist and I'm not in the customer service business. I'm here to sell I'm not here to sell product. I create art, and whether you like it or not makes no difference. It's well, it does actually, because you're asking people to buy that art.
Well, Aaron, I do appreciate your time today. I always like it when we can discuss these type of things, and hopefully people enjoy this video. And if Sean Gordon Murphy sees it, 2 thumbs up from this guy right here, and I think he made the right choice. And I'll probably be following you down the leaving Twitter lane here in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I'm going to go check out his Instagram, because he said he's going to do some posting over there, which Instagram's a lot tamer. So I think that's a good call too. So if you want to still see what Sean Gordon Murphy's up to, follow his the art Twitter that is, the art account that's still there on Twitter. Maybe go check him out on Instagram. But yeah, just a really good decision to not interact with a bunch of, malicious people. Can't applaud him more.